I'm Howard Rosen. I've been retired for 10 years. I did a lot of things in my life. I mainly work for the Forest Service in the United States, and I'm chairman of the World Wood Foundation. And I'm going to tell you about fire. And this is going to be a general talk, and I'll have a lot of nice, pretty pictures, so you don't have to think much about it. Okay? Forest fires, I guess everybody's familiar with those. But how do they affect human interaction with forested land and forest products? So that's what I'm going to talk about. Let's see that we're consistent with the meeting. Wood culture definition, the human use and activities with wood as well as attitudes towards wood, wood products, and wood-related environments. And forest fires are certainly wood-related environments. The use of fire, which would include forest fires, goes back a long time. I guess this shows you sort of Native American people. They're trying to make fire from sticks, but you'll notice that fire was very important. And when they learned to do this, they also set their forest on fire as well, and that had a significant impact on human beings. What happened historically in Europe, which is happening in lots of other places across the country? We have slash and burn, and we use fire, forest fire, to clear forested lands. And why do we want to do that? Because we have a lot more people now than we did thousands of years ago, and they need to eat. So probably one of the biggest issues has to do with growing crops and food. This is an example in Brazil, which has lost a lot of its forest. Land has been cleared by fire. I'll call that forest fire since it covers a large area, and they use it for grazing and farming because people want to eat food. Significant loss of land in Brazil and Indonesia. Most of it is taken down not for logging, but by clearing the land by fire. This is a picture I've shown at other talks, but it's the United States during settlers' time. They're clearing the land, and they use everything with wood, and one of the uses is wood, is to make energy to keep themselves warm. And once they start doing that, they open up the forest for forest fires. So I'm going to pick my home country since I know a little bit more about that and show you some thoughts about forest fires and how they affect human beings. In the 1900s or late 1800s in the United States, there was a lot of clear cutting and fires, which devastated the land and made it look like this, which you couldn't grow crops on it. It was pretty terrible. So the government decided they were going to do something about it. This is Gifford Pinchor. He was the first chief of the Forest Service. The Forest Service was set up to combine the research and lands. They actually own lands to try to manage the forest. And we had a president at the time. This was back in the old days, before I was born in 1905, Teddy Roosevelt. And he decided that he was going to do something about this big problem in the United States. Well, one of the things that the Forest Service was in charge of was if there were generally large fires, they were supposed to take care of them. Well, something big happened in 1910. There was a great fire in western United States. It was referred to as the Big Burn. It included 3 states, Washington, Idaho, and Montana. I have the date there, it doesn't really matter when it was, but it burned 1.2 million hectares. And the land before had been used for logging, mining, and railroads. 87 people died. It was a horrific fire, and a lot of people who had volunteered for the Forest Service were either injured or killed during this. And this was a big issue in the United States. Wallace, Idaho, which still exists today, was almost destroyed, and there's a picture of it, as you can see, and that's a picture of the land area of what happened. Well, this was a turning point because Congress got upset about it, and the people demanded that something be done. So the Forest Service, that was questionable at this time, it had only been in existence for 5 years, was given lots of money to fight fire. And to this day, I'll show you some pictures, the Forest Service that I used to work for fights fires in the United States. Forest fires, not home individual fires. What happens when you have a forest fire? It threatens homes. It threatens where people live, and people get upset. It also threatens national monuments, like when we had the Yellowstone fire. If you look at this picture, you can see a little house in the side, and this is a rather large fire. But the Forest Service is told to fight these kind of fires because they affect human beings and the way they live. Well, we'll get some other types of things too, and that's wildlife. And this is the Bitterroot fire, which took place many years ago in Oregon, and there's a picture of some animals stranded in the water to get away from the fire. But like human beings, they're concerned about forest fires too. Well, the Forest Service was supposed to fight fires, but how do you get the people to interact with the forest the way they should so they would not be in danger of either being killed or injured or having their property destroyed with forest fires? Just like any country, people are very careless. They light campfires and they start forest fires. Or sometimes they do silly things. They have an automobile accident and gasoline gets on the trees and the forest fire starts. Admittedly, a lot are started by lightning, but a lot of them have to do with human interaction. So the forest came up with a symbol, Smokey Bear, in 1944. And he said, fire danger today. There were signs all across the United States to make sure that people, when they went into the forest and interacted with the forest, whether they cut trees down to make wood or whether they were doing it just to enjoy themselves, that they put out their campfires, that they made sure if they saw smoke, they would let people know that there was something going on in the forest. Some of our fires are very large. I'll show you at the end a little bit of data. We have planes that we use, and we have smoke jumpers. So we have people, human beings, human interaction with forest fires, that go into the forest. They're dropped from airplanes, and they set up fire lines to try to stop the forest fires from damaging areas that they don't want to damage, which is usually where people live. We also have tanker fleets where we drop chemicals and water on the fires. And we've been doing this with World War II planes, old planes, but at least we do it. Also, sometimes when you have fires, you try to set fires on purpose to stop the fire from spreading. So this is an example in grassland. You burn the grasslands so that when the fire gets there, it just doesn't continue. Another example has to do with setting back fires. When you have a big fire like this, if you can set a fire and burn some of the land which has trees in it ahead of it, and the winds are right, then you don't have the fire continuing like you did with the big burn, where it burns basically 8% of the size of Nepal, to give you an example of how big that fire was. Now, when certain things happen, and they would happen in any countries, you get different perspectives. And from 1947, the motto was, with Smokey Bear, only you can prevent forest fires. But sometimes forest fires aren't bad. If they don't interact where people are living and they're not a danger, nature has used forest fires to clean out weak trees and smaller trees so that bigger trees can grow. So the philosophy after 2001 was maybe we should let some of these fires continue, and it would be better for the forest, which means it would be better for human beings. And today's motto is only you can prevent wildfires. And wildfires mean fires that potentially could cause damage to humans and maybe wildlife as well. So maybe those fires need to be fought. Okay, I want to show you the wildfire trends in the United States. And you don't have to look at the numbers, but you can see from 1930 to this time, there aren't as many wildfires as we used to have. But the bad news is that a lot of them are getting larger. We're getting larger hectares fires than we used to before, and so we have to fight them. And so this is the data that sort of shows you the trends up from 1970 to today. In the United States this year, it was a very bad fire season. Lots of drought, which encourages fire. So people were in danger. And several people, firefighters, lost their lives, and humans that lived in fire area lost their lives this year, which we don't like to see. And then I'm going to have a couple just quick slides. I know somebody in the audience, I think he's here, will like this picture. This is in China in 2011. You can use fire in the forest to make tea, and that's my wife drinking tea in the forest using fire. Using fire to season the tea and drinking it. We have the people here that are working on one of the projects from the Burning Man project. And this is an example of fire being used. It's not forest fire, but this is fire. And I'd like to say thank you very much, and that's the end of my talk.